Greg, is this a picture of a generator they now have?
No,
Oh, this is what they're looking to buy.
this is what they're looking to buy, this one.
Okay,
This one's an oldie but a goodie.
yeah, I was wondering where that picture came from, okay. Thank
Greg,
you.
I look at this, and I look at this $2.8 million total of these requests, and does that, I'm assuming it does not include the 709 for water in Hillview. One part of the job here is obviously prioritizing these based on the set of prioritization rules that you outlined this evening. The second is, how do we fund this? And do you have a black marker I could draw a picture on that board there?
I don't have one.
We don't have anything?
I have a
No, that won't work.
felt tip marker.
There's no felt tip markers in the building here? You don't have, all right, well, I'll try to explain. Basically, when we set money aside in the debt stabilization fund back in last October, and the goal was then to put into that fund the additional monies that we were receiving from the Berry, which we do now have in place in the form of which will be certified free cash of around a little over $1.7 million that are Berry-related money. So if you put that, if we put all of that into the fund, and we calculate what's left in the fund, because as you recall, we used $150,000 in April to balance the town budget and provide the additions to the restoration of some of the school programs. If we look at that, and we look at our bonded non-exempt debt, and we plot out our debt payment, and we were establishing the debt stabilization fund to hold flat our debt service, because as we all know, the debt service, our employee benefits come off the top of our revenue increase each year, and by holding the debt service flat, we're able to feed more money into school and town government budgets. So if we look at that, and we look at how much we've got left based on what we've already bonded for the Eisenhower settlements, and whatever we needed to cap the debt at April town meeting, we could draw a plan, because we are retiring some debt. So we've got, if we held our debt fixed as of this moment, and we plotted it out, we would see that for our non-exempt debt, that as we go out in future years, the debt is falling off. And the objective was, typically, each year as we vote to bond something, we try to keep that debt, at some reasonable level. And with the debt stabilization, we can keep it flat, depending on how much we spend and how we draw this out. So we need to get that drawn out so that we know how much, or at least we can at least discuss, reasonably, how much we want to put into debt in October, and such that we can make use of the Berry funds, but at the same time not get ourselves into a future year, 2 or 3 years out, where our debt service is going up. The objective is to keep it flat for some period of time. And when we ran some numbers, and this was before the advent of the settlements at Eisenhower, and it was before we took the $150,000 to balance the budget, depending on how we went about bonding, we could use that money to leverage about $7 to $9 million in borrowing without causing the debt service to go up. Right. Now, that's changed, and we need to recalculate that because of the actions that we've had to take. But we need to take a look at that as part of deciding where we cut. And we get this prioritized list, and where we draw the line and say, this is as far as we're going at October town meeting. The other thing I think we have to take into consideration, and I gather that Greg is planning on talking about that, has got to do with what our free cash is going to be. Because if you're not gonna talk about it, I'm gonna bring the subject up now. You know, basically, in rough numbers, we have potentially to be certified in free cash 1.9 something million dollars. I think it's notes. $1.928 million, and that's not that's an estimated number that's being submitted in the balance sheet to get approved. And out of that, 1.7 million plus a little is berry money. So if you subtract that out, you basically got $228,000, I believe, of available free cash. And we have a commitment that we made in April to fund the additional small cap of the school department, which was $50,000. And we had small cap that we removed from the town budget, of which it's being adjusted to a total of what, 84?
Total amount, including the schools, is 99,000.
99,000, okay, so, the 84 got reduced down. So that's $100,000 in, commitments. Plus, we have a, snow and ice exposure of $324,000 that we've got to fund. 341 from free cash, so you add,
Doesn't add up.
it doesn't add up.
We're in the hole.
We're in the hole.
Yep. By,
You know, what?
215,000 in the hole.
Yeah. So, and I don't see that picture changing at this point. And we have to deal with that at October town meeting before we deal with anything else. Now, one way of dealing with it is, and this is why I brought the subject up several weeks ago of a hiring freeze, and looking at some of our programs, and at our financial planning team meeting, we did discuss it with the school department and the finance committee. We've asked the school department to take a look at what they may be able to save, and we have to look at pooling and making adjustments as town meeting just to balance that. Or we're gonna have to raid that stabilization fund again to just deal with obligations that we have to make, that we have no way around. So, bear with that as we talk about the articles. But I guess getting back to the capitalization, what we need from you basically is your recommendations. I assume that this list is not necessarily in a prioritized
No,
form. Although I gather as you get toward the end, those are,
there's a memo that was in the packet from you, included a summary prioritization summary. So if you look at the August 28th letter that was in your packet.
okay. Put this stuff away.
It would attach to the copy of the warrant articles, or right after the warrant article.
Bob, it's attached to this,
Oh,
in your folder.
oh, and tonight's one. Oh, okay.
no,
There's an over the weekend.
in your,
I'm sorry, I got it buried here, excuse me. this is TA priority one.
Right. Just to really summarize what my intent is in looking at this thing, and before then, and obviously you have the right to assign whatever priorities you want to these items. But I looked at items number 1 through 12 as being the high priority items. The total cost of those is $650,000 in total. And my concern is that a much more ambitious capital program we may not be able to afford because of declining revenues. So my concern is to be very conservative in making a capital proposal to you, and saying that the items that are shown here, 1 through 11, were the ones that I considered to be highest priority. Excuse me, 1 through 12.
Okay, now, just, Mike has brought up, on a couple of occasions, thoughts that there may be available funding in the form of grants, for some of these projects. That, may in fact be below your list or on top of your list, which might have us think of approaching those particular projects a little differently.
And what I'm, my task that I'm still following up on is identification of any and all surplus funds, exclusive of borrowing to pay for these things. So, through the chairs and vice chairs meeting, Selectman O'Leary had suggested that we look at some other funds that may be available, or possibly we can transfer money to. I haven't quite completed that analysis.
Mhm.
That's the direction that I'm going in.
Okay, well then, I will make a request that we ask our finance director to provide us a update of what's left in the debt stabilization fund, and and include what is anticipated, and then do a rerun of our debt obligation going out the next 10, 15, 20 years for non-exempt debt. So that we can take a look at what we can afford to do utilizing the debt stabilization fund, and how deep we can, then we have to make a decision of where we're gonna draw the cutoff associated with how much we want
Something such as the
to on in October.
DPW dump truck, which is $136,000. What's the anticipated payout? Is it a one-shot pay for it once, or are we gonna buy it over time?
We would borrow it, so we would bond that. And as I look at the items that are on this list, most of the high priorities, the 1s and the 2s, can be bonded, with the exception of item number 5, roofs.
Because those are minor repairs.
Those are minor repairs, and I would question perhaps item number 8 in terms of the ability to bond that. But certainly the major items, which is the senior van, the police station HVAC, the school building security, phase 3 loan and seed for the cemetery, DPW septic system, upgrading of emergency lighting, the 35,000 GVW dump truck, the 3/4 ton pickup truck, and then the little school asbestos abatement and the space study for the fire department are all bondable items, and we could look at what the cost of those would be. The statute